Hi, this is James from Tabletop Gaming Guild, and today we're going to take a look at Downforce. Downforce is published by Restoration Games and is a 2 to 6 player game. In Downforce, you're going to try to get your cars to place in the race, but you may bet on any car in the race at 3 different points. So you may be trying to get other players' cars across the finish line in first, second, or third place so that you can win on your bets. So let's go ahead down to the table here. I'll give you a general overview of how the game plays, and you can see how that functions, and then we'll come back and I'll give you my final thoughts. All right, so this is Downforce. Now, Downforce is a 2 to 6 player game. And what you're going to do in Downforce is you're going to be moving these cars along until they pass the finish line and place them in the different places. Not all cars will always pass the finish line. Some will actually consider stalled out because they won't be able to move any further. But I'll show you how that happens in a minute here. But what we're going to do to start off the game is everyone's going to get one of these sheets here. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to bid on these different cards and try to win some cars to have during the race. If your car places in the race, you're going to get these buyouts on the bottom, but you're also going to do some betting, which I'll show you in a minute, which is a large amount of points also. So when you bet, you're going to have your hand of cards. Now, the hand of cards is going to be bigger and smaller based on the play count, because before the game begins, you're going to take out all these 8 space cards. Well, I'll show you how you get those in a second. Deal out the cards evenly to each player, and any remainders for the different player counts is put back in the box. And what you're going to do is you're going to use the cards that are in your hand. You're going to take a look at what you got. Wilds can move any car that isn't on the card. So this can move 5, but it can move the green one 5. And these other ones here will move these cars from top down. So I'm going to see right here, I can be like, well, I can move red a lot, so I'm going to probably bid on red. And the way that you're going to bid, which I'm going to show you here in a second, is you're going to take a look at the card that flips. So here's going to be blue, and it's going to have a power that's associated with it. So blue is going to have savvy. When you make your first bet, check 2 different boxes instead of one box. Both bets pay off. So this is really powerful. So I might be like, well, I might want that card just to have that cool ability, and I don't really care if that car passes the finish line because I'm going to bet on other cars. And that might be because I don't have a lot of blue movement. I have a 3. I have some wilds, so I could push it a little bit. And other opponents may push my blue car ahead. So it's not much of a loss, but the extra betting is really valuable. Well, how do I bet for that guy? Well, everyone's secretly going to pick a card. I have a max of basically 2 blue. And I can place this down and flip, and that's going to be my 2 million that I'm putting in. If someone bids higher, they'll win. If there's a tie, the person with the most lines on their card will win. If there's still a tie, the highest wild card with the tied lines wins, wild number. I can also play an off color like this and flip and say, hey, I'm not betting for that car. I just want to pass. Other thing I can do is if I don't have that color at all, which is a possibility, so I have no blue, I can use the wild numbers as betting. So if I didn't have any blue, I could bet 5 million for this. Whoever has the highest bid, so it's going to be up to 6 million is the highest bid, 1 to 6, they're going to mark how much they paid for that car beside the card here, and these are negative points at the end of the game. So if I bid $6 million, I would have negative $6 million at the end of the game. Couple other bidding rules that happen is once we get down to, let's say we have a 6-player game and we have everybody has, but 2 people have cars and there's 2 cars left, no one that has a car can bid for it. So you can't bid if you have a car and there are equal number of cars left to players that don't have a car. If that changes, so let's say all but and people pick up cars and now there's more available, then you can bid again. So you can't have all the cars, but you can have a lot of them. You can pass during the game like I showed, and you could end up having cars that aren't bid on. Those cars are set aside, and at the end of the bidding, if there's people that don't have cars, they get one more chance to bid. If they still don't take those cars with those powers, then they have no cars for the race, but they still get to race because they still do the betting portion. They just better be very good at betting. One other caveat when you win cars, so if I win multiple cars with multiple powers, I have to pick one power, and that power works for both cars, but I have to pick one of the powers. I don't have multiple powers. Once everyone has gotten their cars that they auction for, they will get a 8 power card for the cars that they own, and they will shuffle that, or they don't need to shuffle, it'll just go into their hand. So if you looked at my hand in the original, I would say I would want red, and let's say I actually won red, and that's the only car I have, so I'll put this in here. Now players will take turns moving the cars. On your turn, you're going to pick one of these cards in your hand, and let's say I pick this one. So I will move green 6, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So movement rules. I can move forward. I can move diagonally across a line, so like this. I cannot move side to side. I have to keep forward momentum. But I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 if I want. Now, one of the things here is if a car is here and I'm here and I move green, because that's the one I have to move, I can't move because this line, I can't make it over here. So this car is actually stuck. Also, if I have cars like this, the blue car would be stuck, and so on and so forth. Now, one thing I didn't mention at the beginning of the game, when you randomly place out these cars, whoever's car color is under this is the first player to go. So we'll put that here. I believe blue is actually here. Next one, I would move black. So I'd do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you can move, you have to move these cars. I would move orange, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I would move yellow 3, 1, 2, 3, blue 2, and red 1. Now, it's the player's responsibility to remember their player powers, but sometimes they do affect what other players do on their turn, so they just have to remember to say, hey, you moved your car 8, I get to move my car 1, something like that. So people will keep playing their cards until their cars have crossed the finish line. Once their cars have crossed the finish line, as soon as, let's say, this race was over here and some cars were down here, we'll just make something up, and lo and behold, we'll put my red car right here. Lo and behold, it's my turn. My red card's right there. I play this wild 5. And once you play these cards, that's it. You don't get them back. So you can run out of cards before your car gets finished the line. So now my car, the only car I have, finished the race. I am done. I go down from my box to go congratulate my driver, and other players get to play their cards. So that is how, once players drop out, you're going to potentially have cards that don't cross the finish line, because you're going to have less and less players playing cards, and depending on how fast cars cross the line, you're going to have less and less opportunity to move your cars. Well, that's great. That's how the race works. However, what I didn't explain is the betting portion, which is the other large portion of your points. And how that's going to work is, once we move the cars along here, and as soon as the first car crosses one of these yellow lines, so it's 1, 2, 3 betting lines. So as soon as the first car crosses one of those lines, you're going to bet. So the first line, a car crossed it, we are going to check mark which car we think is going to win the game. When a car goes across the second betting line, the first one, we're going to check mark one of these cars we think is going to win the game, and the same with the third. So at the end of the game, you're going to take the place that the money that your cars got for placing in the race down below. So if I only had my red car and he went in first, I would have got 12 million. But let's say I had the red, so let's say this is how the race finished. Let's say I had, and this guy never made it. He's turned the wrong direction. Never made it. And I had red and orange. So I would have got 12 million and fourth place 4 million for orange, and I would have put those down as my racing total. Now I would do my betting total, and let's say I check marked green for the first one and green placed third, so I would have got 3 million. And I said, oh, my car is going to win for the second bet, so I check marked mine. I would have got 6 million, and let's say I did them again, I would have got 3 million for the third bet. Add those all up, put those here in the betting total, subtract how much you paid for your cars, take these numbers, and you got your total winnings. So person who has the highest in millions of dollars at the end of the game wins. And that in a nutshell is how you're going to play Downforce. So let's go ahead back up the table here and I'll give you my final thoughts on this game. Okay, so I really like Downforce. I think this game is pretty much a must-have racing game if you like racing games. It's very simple to play, it's very simple to explain, and it's a lot of fun. The games play pretty quickly. I play them at lunchtime at work here. We get like 2 games in, so about 30 minutes to play or less. It's really interesting on how you're going to bid for your cards and which cars and which like abilities you're going for in the game. It's really interesting on whether you care or not, whether your car places at the end based on how you do your bets and how you balance all that out. So there's a lot to this game, and it does benefit from replaying. So the more the players play it, the more they understand how all these mechanisms work. So as a racing game, really great. I really like the idea that you are moving all the cars, not just your car. So you have to strategize a lot, and also pushes you on the betting thing. Like, oh, well, maybe I didn't get the car that I wanted to, or maybe I want one of my cars to be in first, but I want my opponent's car to be in second so I can get those, just maybe like hedge my bets just in case it passes me at the end. But I could also get my money from the bets, but I could also get my money for placing. A lot of things to think about. Like I said, you don't necessarily have to have your cars placed in the top to win. A lot of points are in the betting. A lot of things to think about. Solid game. Really great price point for this game for what it is. And that's my thoughts on Downforce. Thank you for watching.